What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time now. For those that don't know, I listened to Yeat for the very first time. It was probably like 10 months ago at this point. It was actually a request that I got from somebody on Patreon. I wasn't even going to listen to Yeat at that time. You know, he wanted me to listen to Up to Me, so I checked it out. And ever since that video came out, I had nothing but requests to listen to his other albums, and we did. This is kind of my experience, my unbiased thoughts going into this, and just what I really think is his best albums from worst to best. By the way, every single one of those first time listens is on this channel, so if you are interested in watching any of those videos, I'll put links in the description. Like I said at the beginning of this, I wanted to make this video a long time ago, so I've actually listened to every one of these albums multiple times, and leading up to this, I dedicated like over a week to listen to every single album and rank them fairly and where I think they should be placed. I'm going to give my rankings of each album, and I'm going to give you reasons why, and we're just going to go through the list until we get to the end. So you all know how this goes. There has to be an album that goes to the bottom, and don't get mad at me. This is just my opinions. This is how I heard it and where I think these albums should go. But at the bottom of the list, I have Alivë. Ironically, this is the last album of his that I listened to. I actually did not listen to this one in chronological order. But what I got from this was basically Yeat at his rawest form. Raw rapping, he had good production, nice flows. You could definitely see the experimentation with the ad-libs and the background vocals. They were like Gen 1 background vocals. He's also experimenting with his voice in this one too, going higher and lower with his pitches and tones. But as far as they stack up to the rest of his projects, I think this one is at the bottom. And that's going to take us into the 8th spot. So things are going to get spicy a little bit later on in this video, but I want to say at the 8th spot we have 4L. Now, I just want to say on every single one of these albums that I've listened to, my experience was phenomenal. I loved every single album, but when you're stacking these once again against his other albums, I think this one is where this one sits at. I think this was improvement from Alivë. I think the production was better. I think he had more confidence in here. I also think he was experimenting more with the background vocals that he had in here. I also think this is one of his most vibey albums that he has had, but I think this is the appropriate place where this one sits. I forgot to mention too, I'm going to give my top 3 songs for each album. So to go back to Alivë, my top 3 are Tonka, Trendy, and OXY. My top 3 for this one, Money Twerk, Talk to God, and Chanelly are my top 3 songs off of this project here. So in my opinion, we're at the point of this video where I think that things are about to get very interesting. So at the 7th spot, we have Lyfe. Now this one is an interesting place because I think that this is a massive improvement from 4L and Alivë. I think that he, across the board, improved on everything. And the only reason I really have it in this spot is because this is such a short EP. It's only 34 minutes long and only 12 tracks. So it's just, you're not getting as much value out of this as I feel like you get out of the rest of his projects. But I do think that this project has a few bangers on here, and my top 3 out of here are System, Out the Way, and Can't Stop It. System is actually one of my favorite Yeat songs to this day. All right, that's going to take us straight into the 6th spot, Lyfëstyle. This is obviously one of his more recent projects. The reason for it to be in this spot, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions, is just how repetitive it was. It was repetitive in the song structuring, where he was recycling the same chorus or a verse throughout multiple songs. It was also repetitive in the sense where when you're listening to the album in its entirety, a lot of the sounds sound very similar. So the album itself almost sounds like you're listening to songs you've already heard before. I feel like this album has a lot of energy, but I think it's just lacking life. No pun intended. I also think this album has great production. It satisfies my ADHD brain in a lot of different aspects. Yeah, and when I think it comes to the overall soundscape, I think it sounds ultra polished with his background vocals and the ad-libs and everything. I just think it falls very short with just how repetitive it is. I do think it's a really great gym album, or an album just to listen to when you're trying to be active. I think it has that purpose of it. But other than that, I think this is where this album places at. My top 3 out of here, I'm going to go Forever Again, Fate, and So What. Those are my top 3 off of this project. All right, and that's going to take us into the 5th spot. You guys are going to be mad at this one. I have Up to Me in the 5th spot. Now listen, hold on. I thought this one was going to be much higher. This was the first Yeat album I ever listened to. I loved everything about this album. But when I was listening to it amongst all of his other albums, which I said I've listened to them like over and over again over a pretty good span of time, I think that this is where this one places at. I think this one is slightly overhyped. I'm not really sure, you know, the attachment some people have with this project. A lot of people would probably have this at their number one, if I had to guess. I definitely think that this album had the biggest leap from any of his previous albums, which was, I think 4L, right? He had a massive leap from this, from 4L. He also incorporated a ton of bell, which is one of my favorite aspects in any artist that I've ever heard. The bell is iconic. I feel like this album had a lot of like raw rapping in it. I don't feel like the rapping was fully polished. He also had some great flows in here though. I think his confidence was improved from his previous projects in this one. I also feel like the background vocals on here, I think that they were actually greatly improved from his previous albums. But that's really where I have this one. The one thing I didn't really like about it was all the devil lines. That's just me personally. I'm not going to get too deep into that. It was off-putting when I first listened to it. The more that I've listened to Yeat, I kind of just brush it off. It doesn't really bother me as much anymore. But it does affect some of the songs. Like some of the songs I listen to off of this album specifically, they turn me off a little bit when I'm listening to them. But I don't know. I'm not sure why this one is ranked so highly amongst other people. I think that this one is at the 5th spot. I think this is where it perfectly places, in my opinion. I am very curious to hear your guys' opinion on this one, though. And I know that I'm going to read a lot of mean, mad messages in the comments, too. So, once again, this is just my opinion. Who cares? All right, so that's going to take me into the 4th spot of his album rankings, which I believe is Aftërlyfe. Yes, I understand. People are like, you rank this above Up to Me? I do. I think that this outclasses Up to Me on multiple different aspects. I think that this album overall just sounds more polished. I think he has crazier flows in here, more melodies. I think his confidence sounds even higher than it does in Up to Me. Better ad-libs, and I just overall think it's a better album than Up to Me is. That reminds me, I forgot to say my top 3 for Up to Me. My bad. I'm slacking. Get Busy, Stayed the Same, Let You Know are my top 3 off of Up to Me. My top 3 on this one are None Not Change, How It Goes, and Heavyweight. How It Go, you know what I meant. All right, that's going to take us into the 3rd spot, which is Dangerous Summer. This one was very interesting. This was obviously his most recent album drop. And what I got from this one, I really think that this sounded more mature. This is his most mature sounding album that he's dropped. I also think this is his most mainstream sounding project that he has dropped. I know it's not an album, it's an EP. I think his evolution from this one, from Lyfëstyle, was tremendous. Tremendous leap. He had some great production on here. He also had some of my favorite choruses. And overall, I think he had some really addicting melodies, and I just love the beat selection on this project here. This gives us a little taste of what we're going to get on A Dangerous Life, which I cannot wait for. But my biggest takeaway is, like I said, is it just sounds more mainstream and it sounds more mature from him. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I've enjoyed, I haven't brought this up in this video, but I've really enjoyed his evolution just from Alive to now. It's been tremendous. It hasn't really been that much time. His leaps and bounds have been extraordinary. My top 3 on this one are Fly Night, Come and Go, and I'm going to say ADL is coming. I know that is a hot take, but that is my top 3 on here. All right, this is where I get excited. This is the top 2 albums. So at number 2, we have my personal favorite album of his, which is To Alive. And I'm counting it as the Geek Pack. This right here, I think, is Yeat at his peak form. I think that this is his most playable album, meaning that, like, I think it just has the most playability out of every one of his projects combined. The confidence on this project is maxed out. The energy is so high. The beats are bumping. The bass is bumping. You also have more bell on this project. I think this is where he actually perfected his sound. This is, like I said, peak Yeat. He also had some of the craziest flows on this project, and I think he flow switched on every single song, if I'm not mistaken. He even came up with his own flow on Rollin', I think it was. Yeah, on Rollin', he has his own flow on that song. Like I said, this is my personal favorite album of his. Also worth noting, I think that this also has his best feature on any of his albums, which is Big Tonka with Uzi on it. I kind of already mentioned it, but the fact that he also dropped a massive deluxe, I mean, the Geek Pack is massive. This entire project is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I already know what you're thinking. If you're thinking that I said all those things about To Alive, how could I possibly put another album on top of that? Well, I'll explain. At the number 1 spot, we have, obviously, 2093. I don't think that this is his most playable album. I think that this is his most impressive album, though. I think that this album provides the best production, cinematic production out of any albums that he's ever done. He also gave you a crazy concept, which gave depth to this album. He also gave you a sober approach, which I thought was very interesting. The only album that he's done that with. It's very introspective, and I think that he really just pushed the creative limits out of anything that he's ever done. And I believe that this album is why I have it at #1. I just think it's the most impressive thing that he's ever done. And in my opinion, I think it massively paid off. I know that the community is kind of torn on this one. Some people love it, some people hate it. Because if you are comparing this one to Two Alive, two completely different albums, some people might say that Two Alive is the best project and this one is the worst project. I could totally see multiple different, reasons why people would place this anywhere in his discography. But in my opinion, I was most impressed by this album here, and this is why I have this one at the #1 spot. And I know I'm forgetting again, but the top 3 on Two Alive, La Geek, one of my favorite Yeat songs, period. On the Line, I think is my favorite Yeat song, period. And that's a hard choice to pick a #3. Screw it, we're gonna go with Big Tonka featuring Uzi as my third favorite track. I can't talk off of Two Alive. And my top 3 on here, I'm going with Keep Pushin', Familia, and Power Trip. Those are my 3 favorite songs off of this. All right, that is my rankings of his discography. Once again, this is just my fresh, I knew nothing about Yeat. I heard nothing from Yeat before I started this journey. And this is just how this is how my experience went. And this is where I put these albums and their rankings. I'm curious to know if any of you guys agree. I'm also curious to know if you guys disagree. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, I can't wait to see how the community is divided on this one. Because if there's anything that I've known from taking this journey is that the entire Yeat community is kind of torn in all kinds of different directions from each album. Some people hold each album as their top, and I respect that. And I think that that's what's beautiful about his music is that you can really go any direction you want with it, and you can really you gain something from every one of his projects. So I can't recall a single artist that has taken the craziest leaps that he has in his career. And I'm not kidding, and I'm not just saying this for the video. I actually listen to his music outside of YouTube. I really enjoy him as an artist, and I really can't wait to see what he does next. With that being said, we will be checking out some unreleased Yeat music for sure. We're going to be checking out Pink Lyfe actually here very soon on the Patreon as paid members. Full transparency. But we're going to be checking out more of his unreleased in the near future. So if you are interested in that, keep tabs on that. But yeah, as far as this video goes, that's all that I have for you. I'm very curious once again to hear your comments. And yeah, I can hear them. I can hear your comments in the comments. Put your comments down below and let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you guys in the next video.